Hello everyone, this is Bhuvan from PM VRTTA channel. As part of our PMP Refresher series, where we conduct multiple sessions on topics relevant to the PMP examination, here is one more thing where we talk about how to write the PMP application itself. Quite a few people of late have been requesting my help regarding how to write their application. If your application is not properly written, especially the description of your experience, the chances are high that after the 5-day review period it comes back with quite a lot of review comments, and if you are under time crunch to write the exam fast, this is an unnecessary delay and that could be avoided. So in this video I would give you some useful tips how to write the job description part of your PMP exam application, so that you present a very professional application where the chances are less that it comes back requesting you for some updates here or there. So let us look at some tips. These are from my experience, having guided quite a lot of people regarding writing the PMP exam application. So first thing, like in life or like in anything we do, purpose. What is the purpose of this application? If you remember that very well, then it will be easier for you to understand what works and what does not. First of all, why is PMP or PMI asking you to write an application in a certain format? What is it looking for? Remember, to write the PMP examination, you must have 4,500 hours of experience, working experience on top of your education. Why does PMP need this? Very simple. Imagine you are the PMP candidate and you are evaluating whether or not to write the PMP examination, what is the value, and you look all around you, there are lots of PMP candidates who do not have enough experience, but they just pass the examination. Somehow they prepare like just any other examination and they pass the examination. And imagine the world is full of PMPs who do not have real project experience but only the exam preparation and then clear the examination. What will be the value of PMP? Exactly one of the main reasons why PMP demands this. And now when PMP needs this from you as a potential candidate for the PMP examination, that's exactly what it will also evaluate when it looks at your PMP application. So it's really important that your application conforms to this. What should your target be? As I said earlier, to ensure that when the review is done, your application is accepted and they ask you to make the payment immediately. Well, it may or may not help you to minimize the probability of your application being chosen for audit, because audit is something that's done arbitrarily. They arbitrarily pick up some applications. There are no hard and fast rules why one application is picked, why another application is not. But I would say generally if your application is structured in a good manner that does not arouse any unnecessary suspicions about the genuineness of your qualification, you should be good to go. So this should be your target, and you should remember this purpose, why PMP is looking for experience and all these things. You will know how to write a good PMP application. The next thing, you have 500 words that you can fill. Make sure you make full use of this 500 word limit. There are people who write with 150 words, 200 words and struggling to write 500 words. Believe me, 500 words, it's not too much. So please ensure that you are structuring your application neatly and you are making use of the full 500 word limit. So the question is, what is the structure? You will see that a little later. Many people have also asked me, should I mention only one experience? Should I mention my last 10 years, 3 work experience? What? There are no hard and fast rules. See, but PMP needs you to show 4,500 hours of working experience, non-overlapping working experience, and that's enough. So if only one experience covers all these things, mention that. Go for as less number of work experiences as possible. You don't want to be mentioning anything and everything you have done in the last 10 years. As long as your past work experience, your job or jobs already cover these 4,500 hours, 4,500 hours, it should be good to go. Please remember, this is not your CV. You're not attending a job interview where you have to say a lot about yourself. So be crisp, be minimal, and prioritize. Instead of rambling about in your 500 word limit back and forth, please prioritize, make a list what you do not want to miss and what is good to have. So list all your roles, responsibilities, and everything on a piece of paper. You pick and choose something that's really important that you do not want to miss in your application. And after that, if you still have some words left within the limit, you can add the other things. So crispness, prioritizing which experience to show, which not to, which roles and responsibilities to talk about, which not to. That's very important even before you start writing the job description or experience description in your PMP exam application. So that brings us to the next part, which is structure. Structure is how the information flows in your application. Many times people not only ramble back and forth, they also start without a context. So for someone reviewing the PMP application, some volunteer on the side of PMI, they really are not able to understand what exactly you're doing, why you're doing. People veer towards two extremes. One is they give quite a lot of information on the overall project and organization. So the question is, hey candidate, what exactly did you do in the project? What is your role in the big picture? That's not clear. On the other side, people just jump into all the details of what they are doing on a daily basis. Tasks. So now the question is, fine, you did all these tasks, but towards what purpose? What was the responsibility that you are handling? Can you handle that responsibility as a PMP? So you should maintain a balance. So here is a proposed structure I always give to all the candidates when guiding them on their PMP exam application. First, one or two lines, you write about your project. What is your project? What is the, for example, product that your project creates? What is the purpose of your team, your organization, your department, whatever it is? Write one or two lines that gives the context. Then write the next one or two lines on what your role in this big picture is. For example, I am the project manager for an automotive embedded software project to create instrument clusters for premier OEMs. This is one example of a high level structure, high level description of your team or your company or your project. The next thing, I had the role of a project manager or requirements engineer or program manager, senior project manager. See, designations are not important, but role is. You need not have the role of a designation of a project manager to write PMP. Designations are different, roles are different. So you can even be a requirements engineer, a senior developer who has been taking part in projects, having experience project management, and you can still write the PMP examinations. It's project management experience, not experience as a project manager all the time. So the second part, you would be writing what your role in the project was, so that it places you within the big picture of the organization or the project. And then come to the various roles and responsibilities that you're handling. So herein I would like to differentiate between what a role and responsibility is and what tasks are. Again, people make the mistake of writing too much about tasks. I organized meetings, I sent meeting requests, I reviewed documents, I created this project management report, I updated the documentation. Sorry, any task has only a context and a meaning with respect to the responsibility for which you are implementing this task. So you have a role, it could be a project manager. You have a responsibility as a project manager, you have responsibility to take care of requirements, engineering, coordinating the project status among stakeholders, interfacing with the customer. These are the various responsibilities that you handle as a project manager, and to execute these responsibilities you are doing some tasks. So after you have described your overall organization or project and your own role in the bigger picture, you would start describing multiple roles, and this should be taken from your prioritized list that we talked of a little earlier. So pick and choose starting from the most important thing according to you, that thing that you do not want to miss, and then go down in the list. You talk about what was your responsibility, and to execute that responsibility, what were the tasks you did. Then you go to the next responsibility. So example, as a project manager I was responsible for requirements engineering. Now this is a responsibility. To execute this responsibility as a requirements engineer, what would you do? I interfaced with the customer to get the voice of customer. I negotiated the requirements with the customer. I documented the requirements on a requirements management tool, for example like doors. I manage the requirements through the entire life cycle of the requirement. So these are the different tasks. but they would not be understood by the evaluator of your application unless you have given that in the context of your responsibility as a requirements engineer, which could be one of the responsibilities in your role as a project manager. Another example, as a project manager, I was responsible for communicating the status of the project to all the stakeholders. So some tasks, I organized project review meetings, I set up the agenda for the meetings, I created the minutes of meeting. I am giving wild examples. It could be anything else. I documented the meeting minutes and disseminated this to all the relevant stakeholders. So these are different tasks. And be very careful. There are some tips and tricks you have to be very aware of when you are doing, when you are describing your role, responsibility, and tasks. We will see that a little later. So maintain a structure so that it's a beautiful flow of information so people understand what is your project, what is your role in the project, what are the responsibilities you handled, against those responsibilities what tasks you did. So PMI can know very clearly that you not only are documenting 4500 hours, you have really 4500 hours of meaningful experience that will ensure the PMP certification adds value to your career. In turn, when you become a PMP tomorrow, the fact that a person like you who is adding value with your experience, if you are a PMP, PMP certification itself has a good value, so that is a very good motivation for the future exam takers. Now, after the structure, we talked about roles, responsibilities, and tasks. From a role of a project manager, you have a responsibilities as someone who is responsible for communicating status to stakeholders, and one of the tasks you do to execute this responsibility would be managing the meetings, organizing the meetings, recording the meeting minutes and disseminating them to all the stakeholders, etc. Now here are some tips, age-old tips. When you are writing or describing your responsibilities and tasks, make sure your grammar is good. Please use the MS Word spell check feature. Grammar also means when you are writing something, write it in good English. Assuming you are writing the application in English, write it in good English, not just the spell check. What is the choice of words? It's not that you are going round and round and not making any sense. So make sure whatever you are trying to communicate is well understood. Use active voice preferably. I did this. I conducted meetings. I documented the requirements. I managed the requirements. Do not say I was responsible for something. You can say to some extent it works, but you are responsible for many things. Did you do them? What did you do exactly in your responsibility area? So be assertive. So use an active voice. Be assertive. Try avoiding some words like coordinated, documented, and everything. That shows that you are just a coordinator, not a project leader. So try to, it depends, right? And use good language, spell check, and all these things. And most important, no confidential information. Anything that will help identify your customer or your business sensitive information. Even people in Europe, we have the GDPR. So you should not have any data that identifies people in your organization or any sensitive data. Make sure that you are not revealing anything. And most important, last but not the least, in the old application format, they used to ask for references. Now they don't. But that does not mean you should not keep any potential references informed. If your application is selected for audit, you will still be requested to give your references and get signatures from them. So instead of running helter-skelter later, today, please identify, in case your application gets selected for audit, who you will be naming as references. Please run your application through those references. Let them ask you questions, and after they are okay with whatever you are writing in the application, then you submit your application. So in the event that your application gets selected for audit, you do not have any issues getting the references signing onto the application. So these are some tips and tricks. So start with the purpose. Why actually this application is needed? What is this application? What its purpose is? What purpose is it intended to serve? Then prioritize what you are going to talk about. Structure it in a neat manner, and use the structure and language in such a way it gives a good idea to PMI and to the evaluators what is your profile as a project leader or as a project manager, so that you add value to PMP and in turn PMP adds value to the career of many people. I hope this was useful. So thank you very much. If you like this video, please like this video, share it with as many people as possible, subscribe to this channel so that you get future updates, and comment on it. Please feel free to share your comments on this channel, PM Vrita. Thank you for your time. Look forward to seeing you in the next PM Vrita PMP Refresher session. All the best.